All right, today's online training class, we'll be spending some time in the accounting portion of the program. 3 or 4 primary areas of emphasis that we're going to be covering today. The first one of those is we're going to spend some time in the income sales and deposit screens, going through how to sell grain, sell livestock, receive money on loans, those type activities within the income sales and deposit screen. From there, we'll talk a little bit about allocating information out to enterprises, whether that be expenses, or supplies as an alternative option to farming jobs. We'll get into payroll just a little bit. I'll talk a little briefly on payroll, how to set up employees, how to go through and do a pay calculation and those kind of things. And then we'll end up the day with the market value balance sheet and how to work with that balance sheet there on the market value side of things. The data project that I've got open is actually a project that one of our demo projects. You'll see there's already some information entered into it, and we can just build upon that. So again, we're going to start within the income sales and deposits portions of the program. So to get to the income sales and deposits, we're going to go to the accounting menu, income sales and deposits, record income or sale. In the income sales and deposits window, it's very similar to the payments and purchases window. The top portion up here, we fill in our information about the purchaser, the date of the sale, the description. We have the ability to attach files. So if there's something that we want to attach with that deposit and record that, maybe whether it's a copy of the check or a copy of the the invoice that came back, so we know what the money was received for, we certainly can attach that JPEG or PDF file that way. I've got a place to fill in our description or invoice as well, basically what will show up in our memo line within our account register. So we're going to go ahead and pick out, so let's say we'll start with the Andersons here. So maybe on last Thursday we made a grain sale to the Andersons. So we're going to choose the date error of 4/2 of 2015. If we've got a ticket or anything, a scale ticket number or anything like that we want to associate with this, we certainly could. I'm just going to put in here that it was a grain sale just to kind of keep it kind of generic today. Under our items sold, kind of the second area within the income sales and deposit screen, we've got a list of buttons here that show all of the different opportunities that we have to mark in what this money that we're going to be depositing and what that was for. We've got a harvested crop sale. We've got an inventory supply sale, livestock, land, structures, equipment. We've got a received on account, and we'll talk a little bit later about how to create a bill and how to receive that money. We've got a loan received button. We've got a personal or family or non-farm income. We've got just a generic sales screen that we can go into. And we've also got the ability to bill landlords for supplies that were used in a share crop type field. If you don't want to use the little buttons, you can use the drop-down list at the top. You'll see that same list of items there just in text form rather than the icons. So we're going to start with a grain sale here. So we'll go ahead and hit the grain sale button. And from our drop-down list, we'll go ahead and choose, say we had some 2012 corn left, and we'll choose our home grain bin there. Maybe we emptied out this bin, so we went ahead and sold all 12,800 bushels and some change there. So we'll go ahead and fill that in. And our price that we've got was $3.95 a bushel, giving us our total sale there on that. We've got another class that we're going to be covering on Wednesday that'll get more into contracts. So for today, we're going to skip over that section of the program. On the bottom part under the how you deposited, we've got 3 options there. We've got a deposit now where we can go in and deposit that funds right into the checking account. The second option is our for deposit. So if we've got a couple different types of different checks that we want to combine together and make as one single line item entry in the check register, we can use the for deposit button. That'll basically put that money into a little bit of a holding account until we're ready to put all of those checks together. And then we've got our invoice button there if we were wanting to create an invoice for that. But we're going to go ahead and choose the deposit now button. We didn't have any other expenses or anything. That was just our net dollar amount there. There's our total amount for our sale. The program does pull that amount down for you. If it does choose your default checking account, but if you wanted to put that into a different account, you certainly could do that. And if you wanted to change the deposit ID, if you wanted to put a deposit number on it, then you certainly could do that as well. We'll just go ahead and leave it as the default deposit at this point. Once we've got that done, you'll see our difference is 0, showing our transaction is in balance, and we can record that transaction. So that's our first kind of a sale that we're going to we've went through today. The next example we've got, maybe we sold a couple animals out of our herd to a couple different people, and we're going to put those together and use that for deposit. So we've got we'll go ahead and deposit both checks in the same account there. So we'll go ahead down here. We're going to choose Helen Davis here. Helen bought some of our animals today. So we'll go ahead and choose today's date. And we'll go in and choose our animals. Whoops. I'm sorry, I forgot to set up any animals in this project. So in that situation, if you know you've got animals and maybe you forgot to put those in the initial setup, you can always go back to the initial setup. So all we need to do is click Done here to get back to that initial setup. This project, I do apologize. This project actually has the initial setup's been closed. So the year end's already been done within this project. So I'm going to make an adjustment here. I'm just going to go back into payments and purchases here real quick. Go to our animal group here. So we'll go ahead and add a new animal group here. And we're just going to go ahead and birth a few into that group. So maybe we had some baby goats this spring. Oops. And some goats here. So now we've got some animals on our inventory, so now we can go back in and sell those. Again, we'll go down and choose Helen here, and we're going to put in here a goat sale. We'll go into our animal group here, and we're going to sell one of our goats, and that goat was going to say weighs 35 pounds, and we sold it for $2 a pound. And we'll go ahead and, so the information here at the top, again, we've got our dollar amount filled in. We've got our price per pound at $2 a pound. So we've got our $70 that we received. The information at the bottom, if these were animals that were purchased and were showing up on your as far as your inventory and having a purchase cost, if you needed to adjust the purchase cost for just this one animal, you certainly could do that. But since these were animals that were birthed in to the project, they don't have an actual purchase cost or anything. They're not depreciable animals, so they're not going to show up with any depreciation. The program would put the averages if you were doing an animal. If you had an animal with a purchase cost or with a depreciation, any depreciation on it, the program would put in the average of what you have for that group of animals in the boxes here and fill those in for you. But since that doesn't apply in this situation, we can go ahead and just click OK. And we're going to put the money, we're going to use the For Deposit button here in the bottom. Basically, that's going to put the full amount there in that For Deposit box. We'll go ahead and record that transaction. We'll say no to recording in farm stock. And we need to sell the other animal. We're going to sell the other animal to Ellen here. So we're going to go ahead and choose today's date. And we'll go to our livestock button. We'll pick our goats. We're going to sell another one, and this one was maybe 40-pounder. And we're not sure on the price per pound, but we know we got $85 for that animal. Program will back figure the price per pound for you if that's the situation. Again, we're not going to worry about the information here in the bottom since it doesn't apply. And we're going to go ahead and use the For Deposit button for this one as well and record it. Now, once we've clicked Done, after we've used the For Deposit button, the program will bring up a deposit ticket window. And this is where, again, we can take We'll show all of our checks that are in our undeposited account. We can go ahead and click on both of those checks, add them both to our deposit side. We can, if we have additional cash that we want to deposit along with that, we can hit the deposit cash button. If we have family living expenses we want to take out, we certainly can do that as well. We can do a less cash. So if we took cash out of that account, we could go into there, choose our petty cash account, and enter in how much cash we want back out of those checks being deposited. But for now, we'll just go ahead and record those two checks together, giving us a single deposit of $155. And then we'll say done. So if we go look at our cash account register here, we go into our cash account maintenance, into our account register. We scroll down here to the bottom two. You see how those two checks went together to make just one single line entry into our checkbook register. We can always click on the magnifying glass for that, and it'll bring up and at least show you where that money came from. It came from our undeposited cash receipts. Part of it was a sale we made to Ellen. Part of it was the one we made to Helen. So there's our two breakdowns on that. If we wanted to go back a little further, we would actually have to go back to our transaction maintenance. So we would have to go to accounting, income, sales, and deposits, and then transaction maintenance. And if we entered in the date there, we could find our individual transactions. You can actually double click on those and go back and make a change if needed. That's how you would make some changes and adjustments there. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we do a draw on a operating loan, and we need to deposit that cash into our checking account so that we've got it there to pay some bills. To do that, again, we're going to go to our income, sales, and deposits, record income or sale, and we'll go down here and choose our farm credit services. Put in there as our draw on our operating loan and as our description. And we'll go over to our loan received button, which is the button with the note on it there. From our drop-down list, we can go down and find our specific loan. Or if this is a new loan, maybe this is the first time we've drawn on our 2015 operating loan, we can go ahead and set that up at the same time. So in our loan description, we'll leave it as new. At the top there in the description box, we fill in our name of our loan. We filled in our 2015 operating loan. And maybe we did a draw of $45,000 on that operating loan. That's all going to be principal due this year, so that it all shows up under short term for us on our balance sheet. And then under the how you deposited, we can just go ahead and use our deposit now. If the money was electronically transferred, which is becoming more and more common, and if we wanted to mark it as such, and our deposit ID number, you can hit the drop down and choose Add Edit. And then you've got some options here already in the list, or you can add a new account or new transaction type. I'm going to go ahead and call it electronic transfer there. And now that's in our list to choose as actually transaction type. So now if we look at this after we record it, if we go to our checking account, you'll see there for our farm credit services, the transaction, it shows there as an electronic transfer instead of having a deposit type. Maybe since we realize that we've got the wrong date here, so if we want to change that, we can always go into the pencil. It puts us back into the edit mode, and we can change that date to today's date so that will update in our transactions there and get in there as far as updating that account there. So there we've got our electronic transfer again. Farm credit services, well, now with the correct date on it. Another option that we've got that we can do is we can actually create invoices through the income, sales, and deposit portion of the program. So if we go into the accounting, income, sales, and deposit, record income or sale. From our drop down, let's go down and we'll pick another vendor here. W.R. Joslin and Sons. Maybe we sold them some seed corn. If it's seed corn that we have in inventory, we can use our inventory supply button. Then we would just go down and locate that seed corn in our box, in our list here. Whoops. Let me find one that I've got some inventory on. I'm just looking for a seed there that I've got in inventory that I can sell. Oops. Let's just do a generic. Maybe we want to sell them 10 units at $350 a bag. It is going to give us a message here. Since we didn't have any on hand, we can go ahead and sell it beyond what we have on hand. Maybe we didn't get the purchase put in correctly. We can go back and adjust that. Actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's say no to that. Let's go back and get the purchase made first. Maybe we purchased the seed and then we retailed it out to some of our sub-dealers there. So let's go ahead and we'll purchase some generic GMO corn. We'll say we're going to purchase 100 bags at $300 a bag. We'll just write a check for that real quick. Record that and we'll mark it as done. Now we can go in and make the sale of it. So we go into our income, sales, and deposit. And again, we'll go down and choose our Joslins and Sons account there, and we'll use today's date. And we're going to pick that generic corn. Again, we'll hit our G to jump down to that generic corn. There it shows our 100 units and our $300 a unit that we made, or that we paid for it. Maybe we want to charge that out at 110%. So maybe we want to go ahead and charge out, charge a 10% more than what we paid for it. Maybe we sold them 20 bags. So we're charging it out at $330 a bag, giving us a total sale of $660. And this time, let's go ahead and create an invoice for that. So we're going to go ahead and hit the bill button here at the bottom. All we need to do is enter in a due date. So maybe our due date is going to be May 1. So we can enter in May 1st as our due date. I went ahead and made sure the box for print invoice is selected. And when I click OK, it fills in the bottom part of that for our accounts receivable. Once I record that, it brings up our invoice statement date. And I need to move that out to include today's dates. So there it shows up our invoice. If we want to put any comments on the bottom, we certainly can do that. Or if we want to put in a footer line along the very, very bottom, we certainly can do that as well. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it just as the way we have it there and hit the print button. Program will bring up a print preview. I'll shrink that down a little bit so that you can see the entire screen. Actually, let's bring it back up. It shows the entire screen there. There's our sample accounting product that we've, our address, our phone number, who we're billing to, the sale date, the due date, what we sold, what the total amount is, and we can actually go ahead and just print that off and put that in actually with the addresses, the way they're set up, a standard window envelope, when you fold that, the addresses that are on that invoice will line up with those standard window envelopes just fine there for you. So now we're going to pretend we're maybe another week down the road, and we received the check for that already. So we can go in and choose our Joslin and Sons there. And now underneath our items sold, actually let's change the date. Maybe we got this on the 15th of the month. I'm going to put in there ROA, received on account, For our items sold, we're going to go over to our received on account button. And there's our $6,600 that Jocelyn owes to us. If we receive the entire amount, we can just go ahead and hit our received on account button. The amount received will fill in there. If they only pay a portion of it, we could go in there and put in just maybe whatever portion of it that they did pay. But once we've done our received on account in the top half, we can go ahead and do our deposit in the bottom half. And we can go ahead now and record that transaction. The last example that I'm going to cover a little bit is how to record a non-farm income. If we've got an off-farm job or something that we don't want to have showing up as farm income, we certainly can record that as well. So if we go into our income and sales, and we're going here and maybe let's add another vendor here. So maybe we do maybe we drive bus part-time on the side for the school. Go ahead and fill in the bus route. And we'll choose today's date. And now we can go ahead and use the family living button here, which is the third button from the right. And we're going to add an account here for just add a separate account here for our school bus income. And maybe we got paid $250 for that bus run that we made. By recording that as a non-farm or a family income, when we get to the end of the year and we start looking at our Schedule F, none of that dollar amount will show up there. So again, gives us another option. That pretty well gets us through our income, sales, and deposits. All right, we'll move on to allocating information using the allocate inputs. The program does give us two different ways that we can take our inventory and get it applied to fields. The first one of those is using our working group here on the left-hand side. We can take our people, our machinery, our supplies, any combination of those, move them into the working group. For example, we've got this power lock chemical into our working group. We can go in and choose a specific field to apply that to. That's one option as far as way to allocate supplies to a field, to get those supply inventory that we've purchased actually over to the field enterprise statements. Another way that you can get that same type goal accomplished is once we have an enterprise statement or an enterprise set up, so there's our corn maize, maybe we want to go ahead and add a new crop enterprise. So we'll right click on that field name and do new crop enterprise, and we'll choose 2015 corn. And our acreage we'll say is 32 acres for this corn maize enterprise that we've got. If we want to just allocate costs directly to that corn maize crop enterprise that we have, we can do that as well. And when we're in our inventory maintenance, under enterprise, allocate inputs, we can go in and choose that generic corn that we just purchased, for example, and we'll change our date to today's date. So it shows there that we've got 80 units of that left. If we want to allocate 30 bags of that to this crop enterprise that we've got for the corn maize, we certainly can go in and do that. And that would eliminate having to record the farming operation. If you weren't really concerned about the farm records and all you wanted was the accounting records, this would be another example on how you could do that. So if we went ahead and purchased that seed, and now we just want to send that seed out to the different enterprises, we could go in there and pick one enterprise. We could pick all of our enterprises and split it out evenly if we would like. But for right now, we're just going to take 30 bags of that seed, and we're going to allocate it to the corn maize enterprise. All we have to do is select that and click record, and then we'll mark that as done. And now if we go look at the enterprise statement for that corn enterprise, you'll see that corn carries over with the price that we paid, giving us a total dollar amount there for that field. Another option that we have is when we're in our payments and purchases window, and we'll go back and review on that just a little bit. If we're purchasing some supplies, maybe we went to the cargo here, and we bought some generic expense. We don't care about what we bought. We know that those are expenses for this corn maze enterprise. We can go to our other expense button, and we can go in here and let's say they're just some miscellaneous expenses. We've got $200 that we want to allocate to that field crop. We're not going to record it as inventory. We're just going to allocate the expense straight to that corn maze as well. We'll go ahead and just write a check for that. So now if we go in and look at our corn maze enterprise statement, we've got that generic corn that we've allocated where we allocated the inventory, but we've also got those miscellaneous expenses that we've allocated to that as well. We can do the same thing on the income and sales side of things. So if we're in our income, sales, and deposits, record income or sale. Maybe in the case of the corn maze here, again, we're going to do a miscellaneous, maybe, actually let's set up another vendor here, and we're going to call this cash customers. This is people that came to our corn maze, just paid cash when they came. So we've got our cash customers, obviously the date. We can set the date for whatever you needed to, but we could go underneath our other sales and expenses here. We could go down underneath, we could either put it to corn sales if we wanted to record it that way, or we could add an account and go down underneath our revenue, and let's put in here corn maze income. We went ahead and we added that account, and maybe we're going to go ahead and deposit $5,000 worth of corn maze money. And again, we're going to go ahead and just allocate that straight to that corn maze enterprise. And we'll go ahead and deposit the money into the checking account, record that transaction. Now again, if we go back to our enterprise statement, now we've got our income there as well. So we've got our other revenue showing our income. We've got some other miscellaneous expenses. So instead of having to do an inventory purchase and then allocate that out or farm that out to the field, you can skip that and record the information going straight to that enterprise at the time of purchase or at the time of sale in the case of the enterprise here on that corn maze. Obviously then when you did the harvest of the grain, you could have that harvested grain there where you could have that grain then to sell as well. Another option for allocating expenses or using allocations is maybe at the end of the year you need to go through and clean up some inventory. You've got some little partial portions of some inventory left. We could go into, again, the accounting, enterprise, allocate inputs. So this time instead of allocating supplies to the field, or to a specific field, maybe we want to go ahead and allocate some expenses. So if we've got some, in this case, we got some bank charges. We've got $174 worth of bank charges. And we could even do this as of the end of the year. So if we wanted to go back to December 31st, we could allocate as of December 31st as well. So let's go ahead and change our dates back to December 31st. Here it shows that, again, we've got $174 that's not allocated or not accounted for on any enterprise statements. So we could go in and choose that $174.64. Choose our field crops mine, and maybe we just want to allocate that evenly across all of our 2014 crops. So we could go into our Show Me button there by clicking on the binoculars, choose 2014 and click OK. Brings up all of our 2014 crop enterprises. We'll go ahead and click All, and when we click Record, it's going to bring up a box and showing us how it's going to split that money out. So it's brought up basically the number of acres for each field and a proportional split on that $174 as far as how it's going to split that out to each of the different enterprises. If you wanted it to just split evenly to each field, you could hit the Split Even button, or you could hit the Calculated Split. If we split even, it's $24.95 to each field. We do a calculated split, then it prorates the amount going to each field in that portion of the screen there. And now if we go back and choose our bank charges, you'll see there that we have nothing left to allocate as of December 31st. So that's another way to go through and clean up expenses. You could do the same thing at the end of the year to go through and clean up some supplies. Let's go down through our list here. I'm just going down through the list. Like this account's pretty well cleaned up. So that, for example, here's 17 gallons of interlock that we have left. If we know we used all of that up, we can go ahead and enter that total amount in. Again, maybe we just use that on all of our soybean fields. I went ahead and selected just all of our soybean fields, and we're going to go ahead and record that and split that out evenly to all of those soybean fields. So again, you can pick and choose what you want to have as far as your options there in the bottom. I mean, if you've got inventory left, I mean, you don't have to allocate it. It's not required that you allocate that out. Obviously, if you still have it left, you wouldn't have to do that. So that's another option on as far as allocating in expenses and those kind of things. The next thing we're going to get into is we're going to get into a little bit on payroll. Within the payroll, we're going to go through and how to set up we're going to go ahead and set up an employee, and then we'll go ahead and do a pay calculation on those. So to set up an employee, we need to go to our People tab here, and then underneath People, you'll see all of our different employees. And maybe we're going to start out with Mary Ellen here. To set up their payroll, you're going to right-click on the person and go to Properties. And then you notice you've got a Payroll tab. All you need to do is check the box for employee, and that'll open up the boxes where you can go in and fill in all of the information off of their W-4 form. So our type of pay, we'll say that this is an hourly position. We're going to pay 26 pay times per year. We need to fill in our birth date. And we got on our date hired, 1/1 of 15. We're not going to fill in the date terminated. And there are federal exemptions. Maybe they're going to go ahead and claim 1 and 1 on that, on their exemptions. If you did not want to withhold taxes, then you could check the boxes here on the left, on the right-hand side. If you've got local taxes, you want to go ahead and fill that in. So if we want to fill in, maybe we've got a DeKalb county tax is 1.1%. We can go ahead and fill that in there as well. Once we've got them set up in that portion, to finish off the process, if you go to your payroll, and I always like to go to time and pay because that brings up the short list there of what you have available or what processes we need to use. And if you want to use time sheets, you can go to the options and go to time setup and check the box for time sheets. And we'll go ahead and click OK. And now we've got our timesheet box where we can go in and fill in start times, stop times, and the program will calculate up the number of hours for us. So if we're doing pay period ending, let's do a pay period ending last Friday. And we'll go ahead and we'll fill in some dates here. We'll move over, just do last week. So maybe she went from 8 o'clock in the morning until, it does use military time here, so if I use 17, it'll do 5 p.m. Maybe she worked from 8 to 5 all 3 days last week. And we'll go ahead and record that and say done. Now we'll go to our pay calculations. Since this is the first time we've done our Any payroll for this year? We're going to say yes to updating the tax tables. And now that we're in our pay calculation, if we go ahead and choose let's choose today and hit the update hours, you see it's filled in the 40 hours with 5 hours of overtime. The first time that we do payroll, we do have to fill in the hourly rate. So we'll fill in $10 an hour. You see the program automatically figures time and a half on overtime. If you want to override that, you certainly can go in and do that if you would like. Program also pulls that the number of hours down into the paid hours, which is what it uses on the unemployment reports and the pay stubs. The allocation hours is how many hours are going to show up when we go look at the allocating that out to the different crop enterprises. And then all we have to do up here at the top right is hit our pay calculation. Looks like the state tax table was not set up yet. So let's go ahead and click done here. We'll say yes to that. To set up that state tax table, we're going to go to accounting, payroll, tax tables. The federal table is automatically updated the first time you go into it each year, as long as you're on the current version. The state tax table, you do have to set that up on your own. So the tax table state, and we're going to say they're in Indiana, so they've got a flat tax rate of 3% and a $1,500 allowance per exemption that we can record that. So now if we go back to our payroll, time and pay, and click our pay calculation again, our information is still there. So all we do is hit our update button, and you'll now see it's updated that state tax rate for us. Also filled out our county tax rate, and now we can go ahead and record that transaction. Now, once we've recorded the transaction, a couple different things we can do. We can go to the employee summary, and we'll just choose Mary Ellen there, and that'll bring that up and show the hours that they worked. On down to the bottom, it's going to give our base pay, our total pay, total deductions. And if you need to have a supervisor sign off on that, you certainly can do that process as well. You see over here on the left-hand side each of the individual deductions. To show that would give you an option for looking at to making sure that everything's set up correctly before you actually go into the payroll register. Again, just another way of verifying the data, looking at the totals that were withheld and everything. And then the very last thing that you have to do is you actually have to record the payroll check. So we'll go ahead and choose Mary Ellen there. Our date paid, we'll choose today's date. We could do a couple different things there. We could add it to a batch. We could say it's already printed. We could use the print now option as well if we wanted to do that. We'll go ahead and record that. And it always asks, do you want to go ahead and make sure that they printed okay? We just need to okay through those. And now if we go to our account register, we see our payroll there for Mary Ellen. If we go in, we can see the individual breakdowns of that, giving us our total amounts of where the money's going as far as how much is going into each of the payable accounts and those kind of things. The program does have the ability to print W-2s. So at the end of the year, you can go into your payroll reports. If you want to look at an employee earning report, we'll just go ahead and choose Mary Ellen out of the list there. And we'll jump out to today's date again. And we can bring up all of the different checks with a grand total there. Another option is under payroll reports. We can go in and print the W-2 forms. So if we look at 2015, we can add Mary Ellen over, and you'll see the program's going to bring over all the numbers and fill in the W-2 form. All we would need is the blank W-2 at that point. We could print that right onto the form itself. The last thing I want to cover today is underneath our market value balance sheets. The difference between the market value and the regular balance sheets is the fact the market value is going to be your true market value and just allow you to put in what you could actually sell the items for. For example, if I go into our market setup and we go down to our harvested corn, for example, in our harvested corn, you'll see the program is filling in what the book value on that grain is. So if we wanted to overwrite that with an actual market value, we could go in and do that. Probably where it's going to be more evident is if we go down and look at our land values, for example. If we've got land values in there, when we talked about the initial setup, you had to put in what you paid for that land. In the market value, you're going to put in what it's actually valued at. Same thing with the equipment. If we open up our machinery and equipment account, for example, on this GMC Terrain, we've got a book value of $5,700, but if we know we can sell that for $13,500, we can come in there and override that cost. You can see this account doesn't have a lot set up in the initial setup, but if it was all set up, we could come in here and fill in the true market values, or in this case, maybe all of this information, these are all fully depreciated out. Some of these ones back to 1970s, 1960s, and some of those kind of things, they're fully depreciated out, but yet they still have a value. So this market value is going to be the place where we can come in and fill in what we've got as far as what we could sell those items for. When we're done with the market setup, we can go into a market balance sheet, and the program will actually print out a market balance sheet. And this is probably more along the lines of what your lending institutions are going to want to see to get you the ability to, for loans and those kind of things.